Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our online Business Bridge training series. If you're not familiar with the Business Bridge, as a quick reminder, the Flint and Genesee Business Bridge is an online directory of minority-owned small businesses here in Genesee County. Listing your business on the Business Bridge helps you connect with other minority-owned businesses in the area, as well as a larger local network of organizations and community members who are seeking to do business with minority-owned businesses. The Business Bridge allows you to bid on non-government contracts and engage with other businesses through networking events and trainings through programs just like these. Our team aims to be a continued resource for small business owners, and we're very excited to be launching this on-demand content for you to access at any time. It also gives us the opportunity to partner with local subject matter experts who are eager to share their knowledge and promote small business success in Genesee County, which brings us to our guest today. With us today, we have Erika Davis of Teach Me How to Bank to share more on budgeting. So if you joined us for her in-person session last month, you'll remember that Erika talked about Business Banking 101. We also just recorded that video, so you'll find it in the library if you want to go back and watch it. But if you are to the point of doing banking with your business, you have to be at the point of budgeting that money as well. So Erika's going to share some tips on that. But before we get started, Erika, if you could please tell us a little bit about yourself and your business, that'd be great.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for having me. Just a little bit about me. I am born and raised here in the city of Flint, Michigan, and educated. I graduated from the University of Michigan Flint with a degree in organizational communications, but I was already an employee at a bank, Citizens Bank, while I was a college student. And I always just joke and tell people I landed in banking. That was not my career path when I was in college, but once I became a teller and started to learn all these things that I, for one, wasn't taught at home, and for two, there still was no college classes that were teaching me these things, then it just became a place that I felt like I needed to stick around so that I could learn all that I needed to learn and then help those around me that were always just kind of in the, wondering about what really happens at a bank institution. So I ended up staying there even after I graduated college and turned that into a close to 15-year career. But throughout that time, I did multiple different jobs, managed in branches, trained behind the scenes. So I saw the best and the worst of banking. I've worked in my community. I was a service manager in downtown Flint at the branch. So it allowed me to see the need in my community for us to just understand how do we conduct banking successfully, or how do we even start it when we don't know how. So it had always been a thing of mine on my vision board that I wanted to somehow be able to teach people how to bank. And after living through the pandemic and working from home, it just was apparent that this is what I needed to do. So that's how it became Teach Me How to Bank. So I resigned from my career in banking to start this business. And that's how you have me today. So I'm excited to be able to share things with you, just as for not only my own personal knowledge, from things that I've learned throughout my years, because I was a young single mom. So I was struggling, living paycheck to paycheck, but still had to operate a bank account and still had to, not keep it in good standing since I worked there. So some things that I've learned that related to banking, budgeting, all sorts of things. And I'll be able to present those things to you today. So I'm excited, and thank you for having me. So this is what I call banking with a budget. There are some ways that you can utilize your bank accounts that can help you maintain a budget. And so we're going to discuss those things really quickly here. And so, just a couple of objectives. This is going to be short and sweet. I just want to be able to remind people of how their accounts and the features of their accounts can assist with saving money, because I think of budgeting just as not as a restrictive tool. I know sometimes when people hear budget, they think, oh my gosh, this means I can't buy this, or I can only do this with my money. No, budgeting is more of a plan for your money. So you understand where it's going, how it's going, and those things. And you need a bank account in order to assist you with that. Otherwise, you can't keep this money business in your head. So that's why this is banking with a budget. And then also by the end of this, I want you to kind of be in the know and understand what tools your financial institution has that can help you budget successfully. Next slide. So the first deal, well, I always start here, but the first step is if you are not already banking, and by that I don't mean like only with the bank. I'm saying you have an account at some institution. So it has to be a bank or a credit union. And I'm saying that because there are features that these places are going to give you that will assist in you being able to control and budget your money a lot better. You won't be able to do that without having a bank account. And I say the institutions because some of the places that I know that they're getting people to sign up to keep their money, I don't want to be naming them, but like Chime and Cash App, those are awesome tools, but they're not bank accounts, and they won't necessarily have these added features that you can utilize to help you with your budgeting and your saving. So for one, if you are not already banking with an institution, you'll want to get there. If you need any help, you're apprehensive about it, that's why Teach Me How to Bank exists. That's why we're doing these videos through Business Bridge, so that you can have a little bit of the background knowledge. So for one, if you're not already banking with an institution, go there, get started. For those of you that are already there, great. That's where I want you to be. The first thing you want to do is know your account. You need to know that account type that you have and understand what fees you have been paying and things of that nature. Because before you even can think about budgeting and saving, you need to know where you're bleeding money from. So, if you have already been banking for at least 3 to 6 months, then you are going to want to start with getting out those monthly account statements. Some of us have them coming in the mail still. A lot of institutions are pushing us to get them electronically delivered. So wherever you need to get them from, whether you have been throwing your mail in a corner, or if you've been getting the emails every month when your statements are available and ignoring them, now I want you to pull those up. I usually say at least 3 months if you have it available, so that you can start to get a good idea of habits and things that are reoccurring. So you're going to want to first look for service charges and miscellaneous fees that you are paying. Those things on your statement will be in their own section. That's the beauty of your bank account statements. They owe you these things every month. They give them to you by law. It's your record. It's your only way of knowing what's happening monthly, day to day with that account. And so you're going to look directly for service charges and miscellaneous fees. First thing is, if you are paying a monthly fee for even having an account, that's the wrong account type that you are in. So that's the first thing you're going to save money from. If you looked at that statement and you see I've been paying $5 a month for my account, especially if you've had that account for over a year, think about the amount of money that you're just giving away just to have a place where your check can be direct deposited. It's not the smartest thing to do for any of us. I don't care how much money you have. Any of us, if we're bleeding money for no reason, should want to stop, because that money can be reallocated. Even if it's not to another expense, it can be put in your savings category. So that's what you want to do. I know a lot of people who are in the wrong types of accounts, and they're paying money monthly and they're paying it for no reason. You can go and get a new account type. You will not have to change your account information, meaning if you have direct deposits and things, it won't affect any of that. It'll just simply change the fees that you are paying. So that's first and foremost. Get those monthly statements, see what fees you have been paying. Now, some of the more miscellaneous fees. Maybe you are using a lot of ATMs that are not in your network. Maybe you have gone in that bank and you have done way too many, or you've gone to the ATM, and done way too many withdrawals from a savings account. There used to be a thing called excessive withdrawal fees. I think that went away for every institution after COVID, but there is a law, a rule for some institutions where if you withdraw too much and you say that is a savings account, then they'll penalize you for that. Some people are paying to get paper statements. So paper fees. You don't want to be paying for things like that. You can go right onto your app, your institution, and opt to have your statement delivered electronically. I know some people that are paying like $3 to $5 per month just to get the statements mailed to their home. And again, I don't know about you, but for one, I don't want all that information piling up in paper form at my home. I don't want it there. I don't want everybody to be able to grab it and have access to it. For two, let's save a tree and save money at the same time. So if you are paying paper statement fees, foreign ATM fees, now it's time to learn how to avoid those things because we are budgeting. And in our budget, we can't afford to bleed out money for miscellaneous things that we can avoid. And you absolutely can avoid those miscellaneous fees. Um, Something I tell people as far as ATM fees, if you are not near your institution and you need to withdraw money from an ATM, go into a place like a Rite Aid, a CVS, Walgreens, Kroger, places where they allow you to make a purchase and ask for cash back on their terminal. Most of those places won't charge you for that. Some places are starting to implement 50 cent or $1 fees, but if it comes down to it, that's still cheaper than withdrawing from an ATM that will charge you like $3 to $5, most of them. And then your institution is going to turn around and charge you for doing it also. So you could end up paying $8 to $10 just to withdraw. And most of the time, you're only withdrawing no more than $100. So I don't know about you, but I don't want to pay a 10% fee potentially just for taking out money. And when you're thinking of budgeting, part of budgeting is knowing where you're giving your money away excessively or throwing it out so that you can put that in another pile to help yourself on your day-to-day, your month-to-month living. So those are things that you want to look for. And once you see that you're paying a lot in those fees month to month, now it's time to learn, how can I avoid those fees? And I can give you tips on that if that's something that you end up finding out. Or don't hesitate to walk into your institution, sit down with a banker, and have them discuss those things with you. They absolutely should be in the business of helping you to save your money. So don't be afraid to do that either. And then take advantage of free account benefits. There are things that come along with your bank account that you probably are paying money to use in other places. One of the big ones that comes to mind, everyone's paying each other, they're cash apping, they're Venmoing. Cash App is a third-party standalone service. For one, they're not a financial institution. They are a payment app. They're only built for you to be able to pay someone. So when you say, okay, I don't want to pay anyone, I want to put this money in my account, now they're going to charge you a fee. Yes, it's a small fee, but we're talking about budgeting here, people. All these fees add up to your bottom line. So a lot of bank accounts and institutions, are implementing their own paid person-to-person options like Zelle, and it's totally free. So you can still pay someone using just a phone number or just an email address. You don't have to exchange bank account information. So it's just that safe. And it's not costing you anything. You don't have to move your money to a third-party app to then pay them. It's all built in. Some people are actually still walking into places and paying money to pay a bill. And your online banking through your bank account more than likely has free bill payments. I've never, out of my almost 15 years of being employed at a bank, I've never seen an institution charge for someone to use their bill payment option. Now, the only thing is sometimes, depending on how sophisticated that system is, they may actually mail a check on your behalf. But again, it's free for you. I know some people that are paying $3, $5 every time they pay a bill. We pay bills every month. We pay multiple bills every month. There is no reason for us to still be bleeding money from our bottom line by paying money just to pay someone. So those are things that before you even get started on allocating where money should go, where you want to first see, where am I bleeding my money away? What am I doing with this bank account that I could be doing differently? Are there other things I could utilize in place of how I am currently doing my business so that I can avoid those fees? So these are things that before you even get into telling your money where to go, You want to know where it's been going and where have you just been basically throwing it out of the window and now you're bringing that back in. Next slide, please. So, as I mentioned, those tools in that previous slide, online banking. If you are not utilizing your online banking through your bank account, it's time that you start. We are always sitting at home, wherever we are. Phones are always in hands these days. We're on social media apps. We're on news apps. All sorts of things that, in the grand scheme of things, is not going to help you with your budgeting. So, I always tell people spend some of that time that you will be TikToking and become familiar with your online banking, your app, because that's going to be your best resource for budgeting your money in your bank accounts. Become familiar with it. Set up alerts. One huge thing that you'll want to have when you are attempting to live by a budget is accountability. Now, some people have spouses. If you're like me, I've been single. Even when I wasn't single, I wasn't married. So I've never had someone that was quite in my money business. So some of you may be in, you're a couple and that's what you do. You help each other. Accountability is great here. You need someone that can say, hey, you spent $10 at Starbucks. We talked about not going to buy those coffees. For those of us who don't have that type of thing, alerts are going to be our friends. You can set up an alert so that every time your account gets to a certain balance, it gives you a text message, or if any debits come out over a certain amount, it gives you an email or a text message. Alerts just act as that heads up that says, hey, you're spending this, you have this. Now, do you want to stop? And then also, let's say sometimes it could be that you didn't authorize something to come out of your account. An alert will say, heads up, $50 just went to Amazon. Oh, no, I didn't go on Amazon. So now you know you have something that you need to deal with. And of course, another part of budgeting is making sure no one jacked you for your money, for lack of better words. I always say and teach me how to bank, you don't want to be jackable, meaning you don't want to make it easy for your money to just disappear or someone to take it. So having alerts and things that happen regularly that give you your account information and your transaction information regularly is going to be your best defense against those types of things. Mobile banking, as I mentioned, you're always walking around with your phones anyway. Why wouldn't you have that as a tool that's connected to your money so that you're able to keep up with it better as you're out here and you're spending and you're doing things like that? And one huge tip that I give people when they're like, how can I budget better? What can I do? I'm spending my money. I don't know what's happening. Utilize separate checking accounts. Now, when you go to an institution, if you're already banking, they're going to offer you as a package deal. Usually, they should, if they're good and doing their job, they should offer you a checking and a savings account. Now, teach me how to bank. That's my thing. I'm realistic here. I've lived paycheck to paycheck. I was a single mom right out of high school, so it's no stranger to me that we're not always able to save. It's just realistic. This day and age, even though I'm doing a little better, child is grown, now it's still no different. We're always having fluctuations in our economy and things of that nature. As soon as you save, something comes up, you have to spend it. So I'm not here to say, make sure you have that savings and you're adding to it. But I am here to say, separate your money and put it somewhere else. So you are attempting to save it, even if you're saving for a purpose. And you don't have to do that in a savings account. You can utilize additional checking accounts. So for instance, you want to be able to pay your bills online and you don't want it all to come out of that one pot where your direct deposit goes into. Maybe you have a separate checking account where you just pay your bills, or you have a separate checking account where you're like, okay, when I get paid, I'm going to put this little cushion of money here so I can have that as a backup. It's not in my main pile, and I'm just going to see how this works as I get closer to getting my next paycheck. What I found with people that have taken on that tip, you'll be surprised that sometimes you will end up at your next paycheck and you will still have money in that other checking account. And now you've discovered that you do have something to save. What happens is when we keep all of our money in that one account, your main checking account that you get your direct deposit in, and you go out, you have a weekend, swipe, swipe, swipe with the debit card. You authorize someone to pull money out, so you automatic debit came out. It was a long weekend after that Friday you got paid, and now you're looking at your account and you're like, oh my goodness, I only have $30 left. What did I do? Was it that fun of a weekend? Well, what I tell people when you're learning to budget is as soon as you get that direct deposit, sit down and transfer X amount of dollars into your other checking account out of that main checking account. For one, it gives you that balance as a different number now out of that main account that you're using the debit card from. Your check may have been $600, but you just took $200 and you moved it to another account. Now in your mind, okay, I'm only working with $400. Mentally, it should do something different in your mind so that when you're out there and you're swiping away, now you're working with less because you're not just going out there mindlessly spending and swiping your money. And hopefully you're getting alerts that also says, hey, you spent 50 here, you spent 20 here. And now it's putting it on the forefront that you're spending excessively. It's giving you that backup right there immediately when you're getting that email, you're getting that alert. Okay, maybe I should slow down, because it's something about when someone runs out with that debit card, and I call them super swipers, and they swipe all weekend, not even being mindful of their balance and how it's dwindling down. They don't have alerts, so there's nothing coming forth that say, hey, you spent that, you have this left. And not only that, you didn't even separate your money. So it's not even going to stop you from even going below $200. It's just going to spend it all because that's what you've done. So having some money that you put in a separate account, for one, it gives you less to work with in that main account, gives you a little cushion in a separate account. And then if you have to borrow from yourself, if you need $20 more by the time the week hits, now you have it in that other account and you can transfer it to your main account. And hopefully, after spending excessively, you'll start to tell yourself, okay, I have to change that habit because some kind of way I went through my whole $400 in just 3 days. So being able to utilize these separate accounts, separating those funds, understanding your balances as they're occurring day to day and how your spending is affecting those, it'll start to play out in your mental that you need to change some of those habits. And then on the flip side, maybe you don't spend that much and you just thought you were a paycheck to paycheck person, but now you're realizing it's almost your next payday. You still have that money in your other checking account because in your main account, you were working within that balance. So now you get to see that you actually have money that you can save if you just start separating it and, allocating it with a little more knowledge and understanding. It kind of goes back to balancing a checkbook, that thing that we don't do anymore, that having these alerts would at least put it in your face and say, hey, you spent this, now you got this. Okay, you spent that amount, now you got this. So these are all things that mentally will help you when it comes to budgeting, because I know I'm realistic. Everyone's not out there with a register saying, okay, I spent this and, keeping that running balance. So these tools that I am giving will, for one, give you that accountability and then also allow you to have that snapshot of how much money you're spending on a day-to-day basis. And then, like I mentioned, with bill payments, you'll want to utilize paying bills from your account, so that, for one, it creates that trail and you're able to see, okay, how much am I spending on these bills each month? Where can I cut back? Because all of that will come out of your account. Different than if you pull out one big amount of cash and you go to Walmart or wherever they have a bill payment center and $100 there, $200 there. If you pay these all from your checking account, it allows you to sit down and look at those statements and say, okay, I noticed I'm paying all this for cable, or I'm doing, I'm paying way this. And then you can see where you need to make cuts because it's all at a snapshot. It's at a glance. You see it. You see the numbers. And that's the only thing that can help you become successful with budgeting, is really having an honest and accurate idea of where you've been spending and what those habits are. Next slide, please. So, back a slide. So I've given you all these tips. It's time to put a budget into action. Some of us, like I put the thing on the slide here, we're still using paper and pencil and you're writing out a budget. And I do. I'm not going to lie. I utilize my bank account, but I like to plan before I even get the money. I use the Dave Ramsey. You start with amount and you give everything an actual, like you go down to zero basically. I don't know the exact name for it, but I know you start with your amount of your monthly income. You allocate how much you're going to spend on each thing, and you literally tell your money everywhere is going to go down to zero. So, actual sitting down, writing it out, budgeting, that is also a thing. Some of us still use it, but I'm also talking about how the bank accounts help with that. Because something that I found just from my experience is that you can plan for where your money should go. But if you're also banking and you're going out and you're swiping mindlessly, believe me, that you are spending money that you're not realizing, or you're using it in fees that you're not realizing. So, banking really is a tool that you need if you're going to be successful with budgeting. So, just as a recap, if you're not banking, you're going to get into it because that's the only way you can organize and be able to live, any type of budget way. But if you are already in banking, you're going to review those statements, or if you want to just pull up your account history for some months and have it all in a running balance on a computer screen, that's fine. But whatever you do, you're going to review and make sure that you are not paying away miscellaneous charges and things like that from your bank account, because you're going to save that money right from the start. And then your online banking tools, you're going to become more familiar with those if you are not already. Mobile banking, I say it's an accountability tool. Use it. That's going to act as that in your face alert to let you know, okay, you're doing too much, or, maybe you set it up to give you a daily balance alert. So, every day when you wake up before you get out of bed, I'm working with this amount of money. You've already separated your money. You got your little cushion in your other checking account if you're not quite ready to save. So every day you're getting your balance. You know what you're working with. You're more mindful of where you're spending your money. And in the end, you can come up with plans for the money that you're not spending excessively to go in other categories. Because bills are always going to be bills. Some things we can avoid, some things we cannot. But we absolutely can avoid bleeding out money from our bank accounts or mindlessly spending, which throws our budgets off altogether if we utilize these tools that I mentioned through your financial institution. And then always, always, always avoid extra fees. Don't be crazy. Don't throw your money away just to spend your money. So it's time to not only do your research if you're not that familiar with the things that your financial institution offers, it's time to become familiar. If you don't like what they're offering, or you do some research and you see that another place, like maybe their online banking allows them a budgeting tool built right in, and you hate to do pencil and paper, you're not doing that thing that Erika said. So utilize your bank account where you can set it up. I do actually have a bank account that has a budgeting tool built in for me. And I go in each month, I say how much I want to spend on clothing, how much I want to spend on food, how much I want to spend on utilities. And my alerts will tell me, okay, you spent this much on clothes. You've exceeded your budget on clothes, which that has happened because I'm human. So, it will give you that type of alert. And it's something about getting that text message that once you swipe the card and then the text message says you spent too much or you overuse your budget for that thing. For food is a big one. We're always out to eat somewhere. So it's about doing whatever you have to do to build that accountability so that you make that change. And it takes time. It's not anything that you're going to get in a month. I have a 20-year-old daughter, and I keep telling her, it's like, just give it some time. But even she's a lot better now because she utilizes two separate checking accounts because she's 20. So she runs out on the weekends and does what 20-year-olds do. But after her weekends, if she has nothing else, she has money in that other account. When I say, hey, give me your money for your phone bill, or give me your money, or did you pay that insurance bill? She has that money already in that other account. So these tools, you utilize them, the more you do it, the more habits it builds. And that allows you to get a more accurate depiction of how you spend your money. And then you adjust as far as your budgeting to where and, how much you want to spend. And that's the only way that you can survive. And I call it, if for nothing else, you're saving to be able to cover your own self in the event that something comes up. It's a lot easier to borrow $50 from your other checking account than it is to have to admit that you got a paycheck, you spent too much, and now you need to borrow $50 from your mom or from your sister because you failed to budget your money. So don't think of this as restrictive things. Think of budgeting and using your bank account to budget as a plan for things, as a peace of mind for things. It gives me peace of mind, if nothing else. I've done it both ways. I've lived where I just ran out and swiped. I was a super swiper. And the stress that it causes just from not having had a plan or not having utilized and separated my money and been aware of how I was spending, the stress levels from you budgeting and planning and utilizing your tools are so much lower than not doing it. Even if you're paycheck to paycheck, I've lived paycheck to paycheck, but I'm a lot better when I get that paycheck and I have categories for my needs. I go ahead and take care of those things before I go out to eat 3 times. And then I'm like, oh my God, I needed to pay my water bill. So it's budgeting, think of it as a plan and just kind of an understanding of where your money is going. And then you can add in, I want to save for a trip. I want to save for a TV, and those things you build in, and it helps you. And if for nothing else, you're covering yourself and the stress is a lot lower. Take it from me. Next slide. Are there any questions?
Thank you so much, Erika, for all of that information. I think a lot of times when people think of budgeting, they think, okay, I bring in this much money, I spend this much here, I spend this much there, but they're not thinking about all of those miscellaneous swipes or miscellaneous fees or subscriptions. Like all of those things
Yes,
add
the
up.
subscriptions are huge. That's why I tell people, like, look at your 3 months, 3 to 6 months, because a lot of us have subscriptions that we're not even utilizing. Maybe you started a 30-day free trial and you forgot to cancel it. And you only know that if you look at your bank account statements and you're like, oh my goodness, I've been paying $8.99. I don't even log into Hulu or whatever it may be. So all those things, when you're thinking about budgeting, it comes into play because it kind of creates a little pile of money that you may have that you didn't even know if you just stop paying fees or, cancel that subscription that you don't use, kind of
Right.
thing. So
You have to know where your money is going in order to make it work for you. And another thing you mentioned is like, well, it might be only $5 or $8 or whatever a month, but that adds up over
multiply it by
time.
12.
Yes,
I always tell
exactly.
people, like, multiply it by 12 and tell
Yeah.
me you wouldn't want to do something else with that money.
Yep. And I loved what you said too about, when you separate the money out and you realize that you have money left in this account,
Mhm.
you actually do have money to save if
Yep.
you are disciplined in the way that you're spending your money. So,
Because a
all
lot of
great and
people,
practical
yeah.
tips to help
That's why I try
people.
to push the checking account things. A lot of people think the only two accounts they can have is a checking and a savings. I'm like, no, 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 no. Some of us aren't even saving. And I get it, because in your mind, you don't even have money to do that. So get a separate account and get a checking account. That way, if you need to transfer back and forth, that can happen. But you might be surprised to see you come up on another paycheck and you still have $30, $40 in that other checking account. Now that's savings.
Yes.
So it's just about in the way that you use these accounts and these tools that can kind of help you more than you would think.
Yes. And like we talked about in the Business Banking 101 webinar, so if you haven't had a chance to watch that yet, go back and view it. When you're looking to get business financing, when you're looking to apply for loans or apply for grants, people want to know that you are good stewards of the funds that you have currently. And having those budgeting practices in place is really going to help set your accounts up for success in the long run.
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, thanks again, Erika, for all of that information. If you're a business owner and you're not sure where to start, our team at the Flint Genesee Economic Alliance Small Business Help Desk is here to help and support you. You can learn more or schedule time with them at www.developflintandgenesee.org/small business help desk. And if you have additional questions for Erika and all of the information that she shared, you can reach her at iteachbanking@gmail.com. Thanks again, Erika, for all of the great information.
Thank you for having me.